For far too long, Africa has lived through a history of slavery, theft, foreign rule, and the darkest place in human history that the world brought to her doorstep. 400 years later, Africa's scars have birthed a dynamic, onward, and rising people. Join the Inspire E-Conference 2021 as great minds edify on the positioning of the new rising star. Starting on the 9th to the 14th of August. Africa, get ready.
Once again, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, second session. My name is Rebecca Subi, and I'm so happy that this evening has started out in a powerful way. Africa, we have no excuses. We need to harness each and every skill that comes our way. I really enjoyed the session that Professor just held on. And one thing that stood out for me was that the focus for Africa is no longer job creation, because the jobs are actually not there. What's the point of creating jobs when you have no skill for them? And so this evening, as we start our next session, I want to welcome everybody once again. Please remember, we are live on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. If you have a question, we have a Q&A chat box. Feel free to write any question that you would like our speaker to respond to. Otherwise, welcome once again. So our next session is really talking about the emerging critical skills in Africa. And our speaker for tonight is Miss Ivy Anan Mawuko. Yes, Miss Ivy Anan Mawuko is from Ghana, and she's the head of learning for Africa regions at Standard Bank. She has experience of over 20 years working in human resource development, and she usually advises on modern work learning and development initiative. Miss Ivy has worked for over different organizations, the non-profit organizations, government organizations, even the private sector, and her interest is really based on supporting people to identify their God-given purpose so that they can use all of that knowledge to launch them into successful careers. So as we begin, kindly, once again, any question you can just type it in the chat and let's get started. Miss Ivy Anan, you are most welcome to Inspire E-Conference. Let's get ready, Africa.
Thank you, Subi, and I'm sure you can hear me very clearly. And a good evening to our distinguished listeners and to Professor Anan for laying such a good foundation for this second presentation. And indeed, I'll be speaking about the emerging critical skills in Africa. What an exciting conference we have underway. I would, just before I go into my presentation, I'd like to invite all of you to think about this question. What if you had an opportunity to develop or learn a skill? What skill would that be and why? I just want you to reflect on this and keep this at the back of your mind. Think about it throughout my presentation. What is the one skill that if you had an opportunity to develop or learn would be, and why would you invest in that skill? And you know, it's interesting because Prof did a lot of presentation around the realities of employable skills in Africa. And I would be speaking about Africa's current realities as I unpack the emerging critical skills in Africa. And I really want to also unpack the difference between knowledge and skill. And I want to speak also around the skills gap in Africa, and then some recommendations to close the gap. So it will build on what Prof. Anan took us through. So as you know, Africa hosts the world's youngest country. So all the world's youngest countries can be found in Africa. And the World Economic Forum estimates that 15 to 20 million young people will join African workforce every year for the next 2 decades. And so by 2030, Africa will be home to more than a quarter of the world's population under 25 years. So we will make up 60% of the continent's total population, young population. So by then, 15% of the world's working age population will be in Africa. And the continent's urbanized population will be more than 50%. So that's some of the current realities that speaks to our beautiful continent. And that also means that it does present us quite some challenge, because having such a young people presents both opportunities and a challenge for the continent. The continent will remain the world's youngest region, with a median age under 25 years, and the number of young people is into the millions. If you look at the diagram, which the sources from the UN Population Prospect for 2019, it says that if you look at the median age of the total population, 2020 forecast, so a country like Niger, the median age is 15 years. If you take a country like Uganda, the median age is 16, let's say 17 years. If you take Mozambique, that's about 18 years. Zambia, around about 18 years. That speaks to such a young, vibrant continent, Africa. And also, it does present some challenges. And I think that Prof did talk about it a lot, to say that among Africans graduates, 50% have no jobs. And that's not surprising, because we've talked about lack of employable skills, not the absence of jobs. But interestingly also, the highest proportion of young entrepreneurs in the world can be found in sub-Saharan Africa. But then the research work that was done by the African Policy Review did say that, unfortunately, 32% of these young individuals are necessity-driven entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship is perceived as a survival strategy and not a business opportunity. So we have a challenge at hand, but we also believe in Africa's potential. And so we in Africa, what we need to do with that population of youth today, what we do with our youth today will determine the future of work in the world. And Prof did say it's a boundaryless, when you've got the skills that are required, the relevant skills can transcend Africa. So Africa can certainly become the brimming workshop of the world if we have a knowledgeable and highly skilled workforce. We will be able to propel this continent into the fourth industrial revolution. And yet we are confronted with an emerging skills gap. So a skills gap is really the gap between the skills that an individual has currently and the skills that he or she actually needs to perform a job well. So the skills gap can vary in questions or the types of skills required for the job. That is the challenge in Africa. So the current skills of our youth, of the young people, of the graduates, is not matching the skills that are needed to propel this continent into prosperity. But when we talk about skills, oftentimes it is usually interchanged with knowledge. And I want to try and unpack that a little bit for us, that there is a difference between knowledge and skills. So when we talk about knowledge, we're talking about the mastery of facts, a range of information in the subject matter area. So for example, I think it was one of the co-hosts who said that he had knowledge in computers, but he was more interested in the media. So you can read around computers, you can actually study about computer science, but you would not have used it to solve any complex problems. You've never applied it to solve a problem. So you've got knowledge, but not the ability to transform or to transfer that knowledge into outcomes. So that's knowledge. We can read about content, we can read about farming, you can read about auto engineering, you can read about housing and construction, but you may not use it to actually turn into an employable skill. So knowledge is very different from skill. I know about something does not translate into I have the ability to do it or to actually put it into practice. Whereas skill speaks to expertise, competence, in a given area. You have the ability to use the knowledge to solve a problem. Skillful in automating a process for accounting. I can do it. If I'm given the job that requires me to do this task, I have the ability to do that. I'm skillful. I've gained the experience of doing. So one is knowing and the other is doing. Now, when we talk about skills gap in Africa, this image is quite striking because what it seeks to project is there are quite a number of educated graduates in Africa. But if you look at this demonstration, it says educated and unemployed. Another one at the back says we chose education and not poverty. So it goes to build further around skills and knowledge. And the concern that have been raised by many prominent institutions on Africa's inability to fill most of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics jobs within industries. The STEM jobs is what we need today in Africa. And only 4 to 12% of students graduate with STEM-related degrees in Africa. And I'd like you to think about the impact this has. It says that the shortage of such workforce is linked to classroom teaching and learning practices that are predominantly geared towards passing examinations and not toward applying knowledge acquired to solve real-life problems affecting Africa or affecting society. So indeed, if you look at it critically, what is the point of teaching learners mathematics and science subjects in a way that they do not find immediate applicability other than passing a 2.5-hour examination? There is abundance in social sciences, and that's not to say that's not important. We need all the disciplines, but there is a strong imbalance between the skills that Africa needs to propel us into prosperity, and that is related to the lack of STEM-related degree that is lacking on the continent. Again, I talked about skills, that building the expertise to apply one's knowledge to accomplish a task. So the focus of the presentation is acquisition of skill. And Prof. Anan did a very superb job to say, how do you grow your own career and acquire the needed and relevant skills that will make you employable? There are jobs, but we do not have the right people with the skills we need to get the job done. There was an interview that was done recently by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they interviewed globally some chief executives, and they were all concerned about the availability of key skills. Among African business leaders, this figure jumped to 87%, and 45% of them said they were extremely concerned that they were not finding the employable skills that industry needs. If you look onto this research work that was done by the African Policy Review Group, they talked about the fact that in Nigeria, currently, Nigeria needs 51,000 more engineers in its electric power infrastructure than it currently produces. So you clearly can see the number of skilled workers in many of Africa's labor markets does not even match the extractive sector current needs. The jobs are there, but we don't have the employable skills to leverage off these job opportunities. Again, due to the lack of a domestic STEM workforce, most STEM jobs in Africa today are outsourced to other countries, including the US, China, and India. So for example, because China has a large workforce of engineers, China has a strong presence in development projects in Africa. In 2014, there were 87 Chinese construction teams that traveled to Kenya to construct the standard gauge railway. And that's just one example. So what are the emerging skills gaps in Africa? And I would I would avoid giving you a list. I'd like you to come along with me and apply your minds around how might we transform this continent into prosperity, a prosperous continent with the right skills that this continent needs. And that's what I'll focus on. Indeed, the World Economic Forum indicates that Africa faces a huge digital skills gap, and this could dilute our economic opportunities and development for the continent. The emerging skills that Africa needs is around digital skills. So by 2030, more than 230 million jobs will require digital skills in Africa, according to the International Finance Corporation. And a lot of jobs in many of African countries are being automated. So if you take South Africa as an example, 41% of all work activities in South Africa are susceptible to automation. 44% in Ethiopia, 46% in Nigeria, 52% in Kenya. That should give you that almost one can conclude that more than close to 50% of our work activities on the continent will be automated. Hence, an emerging critical skill in Africa is digital skills. Now, if you look onto this diagram, it clearly shows that there is demand for digital skills in Africa, but the supply is less. So the demand for digital skills far outstrips supply in sub-Saharan Africa. If you look onto the key points raised here, digital skills, analytical skills, interpersonal skills, character and behavior, and you look at so if you look at the black line where you got the lines here, that speaks to where the demand is. And then, and then the demand. So sub-Saharan, including Ghana, this is where the gap is. So you can clearly see the global market trend and where Africa lies. So if you take, for example, around critical analytical thinking, there is a gap. The gap gets much wider when it goes to computer literacy, application of technology. Around the digital skills, you can clearly see the gap that exists between the demand and the supply. Of course, there are huge demand needs also around character and behavior. We always say that skills will get you the job, but character will keep you in the job. And so it's really, when we talk about skills development, we are not saying that there's one skill that is superior to the other. It's a combination of the right skills and the relevant skills that will get us moving this continent into prosperity. A combination of digital skills, analytical skills, interpersonal skills, character and behavior. And in all cases, there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap between what we need for Africa's development and what Africa is able to supply. And so then that brings back to how do we move on, given this is our reality? So I would like to conclude on this diagram and the research work and the presentations done so far, that Africa needs digital skills across the economy, not just the tech sector. So Harvard Business Review did this research work and I found it really instructive. They said, research shows the digital skills that are needed in the 7 sectors across Africa. So we need digital skills, not for its own sake. Digital skills is not the result. Digital skills is a means of transforming Africa's economy. And they gave 7 key sectors that holds opportunities for driving Africa into prosperity. 1 is agriculture, 2, banking, 3, consumer goods, infrastructure, mining, oil and gas, and telecommunication. So what Africa needs is the digital skills across the economy applied to these sectors to propel us to leverage off the opportunities that this continent holds. So much of the demand for digital skills will emanate from generic occupations that are not narrowly defined by ICT professions. We need enterprises that will adopt digital technologies in a broad range of sectors. So Then again, the World Economic Forum says about 70% of the demand will be for foundational digital skills, and another 23% will be for non-ICT intermediate level digital skills. The question is not so much acquiring an ICT degree or an ICT competence, but applying the ICT into the sectors that hold opportunities for Africa. I just want you to see this again, based on the LinkedIn data from 27 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And it clearly again shows the lack of digital skills on the continent. If you see, some even go in the negative. So we haven't even reached the threshold to begin. There is quite an emerging strong digital literacy. So people are aware. I said that the mobile technology penetration in Africa is very strong. So that awareness is there. But when it comes to scientific computing, software testing, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, game development, enterprise software, software development lifestyle, cybersecurity, computer hardware, graphic designing, computer networking, technical support, there is a gap. There is a gap. And remember, these are not an end in themselves. It's applying these into Africa's value-added sectors. I think, so what are the opportunities for Africa to close this gap? And I believe that Prof. Anan laid down quite some significant thoughts around career progression and development, the role of organizations. And I'd like to present 3 opportunities for us to consider in closing this gap in Africa. One is that each of us in Africa are created to do good work. And we need to debunk the myth of a cool job. So there are quite a number of people. I had an occasion to meet 20 graduates. And I asked them a question to say, how many of you truly are pursuing the courses you are at the university because you believe that those are the things that you really want to contribute to Africa's development, that will fulfill you and solve society's problem? 80% of them were living their parents' dreams and not pursuing their God-given dreams. And I want to present that each African child is created to do good work. In each person lies a unique opportunity to fulfill themselves with a God-given design that will fulfill them and also make this continent prosperous. So my presentation to you today is, let us seek to expose ourselves into the variety of occupation there are, but aligned to your interests. There are no menial jobs. Skill is a currency. If you are skillful in your work, name your price. Value is in the quality of the skill. Many corporates are willing to pay for the critical skills that are needed to transform their business. When skill is present, money is not the issue. And so the presentation is to pursue mastery of the skill, but aligned to your interest. If your interest is in tourism, if your interest is in agriculture, if your interest is in banking, if your interest is in telecommunication, if your interest is in security, expose yourself to what are all the occupation types and varieties that are needed and apply yourself there. I think we should debunk the myth of cool jobs, where we identify a list of these are the jobs that are prestigious, that are rewarded, that are important. I don't know if any of you have had an experience hiring a plumber, but I've had many experiences of such. And I keep saying, I'm looking for a skillful plumber and I'll pay them any price, because we've changed 5 plumbers over a period of 1 year. Skill is required, but at a very high expert level. When you have proficiency and skillful in your work, you name your price. And there are no cool jobs in Africa. There are huge opportunities from trading to manufacturing, to name it. There are huge opportunities. And it is time for Africans to find their interest and live those dreams through exposure. Then also investing in skills proficiency and mastery. And that has to do with paying the price of investment. Oftentimes, people are so much in a hurry to get in and climb very fast. And we haven't really mastered the art of gaining the right experience that will really show that you have mastered the art of your work. It takes time, it takes experience, and it takes practice. It takes looking for opportunities, sometimes not so much the money. Internship projects, putting up your hands to even work on government projects, not because you want to be paid, but you're seeking exposure. There are many successful stories of people who have broken through their careers only because they volunteered and they gave of themselves with the intention of getting the exposure they needed to be able to fulfill themselves. So live your own dreams. Your passion will birth creativity and innovation. Be intentional about solving problems with your skills. So the first question I asked you is, if you had an opportunity to learn any skill, what skill would that be and why? The skill you have must solve Africa's problems. And Africa has many problems and opportunities. And we are looking for employable skills to do that. I want you to remember that each one of us on this call is created to do good work. And there is no limitation on you. Find what interests you and give it attention. Develop it. Be brutally disciplined to acquire the best experience and name your prize. I want to go on to say that the impact of our skills on the continent should generate value, economic value. So skill is not valueless. Once you have the skill, and we're transforming Africa to become a prosperous continent, and this is it, Africa's time is now. Our skills should generate economic value. It should be profitable. It should also generate social value. It should benefit society and solve problems. And it should also have spiritual value, eternal value, because as you know, we were created by God to do good work. For organizations, in terms of how to close the skill gap, the recommendation is to take on a holistic approach to skills development and become radically generous and develop an integrated strategy plan to upskill, reskill in specific sectors. I think Prof. Arnold said we should benefit from the stomach, but also from our brains. But the challenge I put to organizations is being radically generous, is that you're not only Africa for the returns, but you're also leaving footprints of contributing to Africa's human development. We know many organizations that set up academies to grow and give opportunities for Africa's young people. We need more of such partnerships. Once you are in Africa, it's not only for the returns, but you also leave indelible footprints of contributing to Africa's human development. I believe that if all organizations in all the sectors I shared have this generous, radical ambition to leave footprints in Africa, where they make huge contributions to provide opportunities for Africa's young people, we will be closing the skills gap that are lacking. So on one hand, there's a responsibility for you as an individual, as an African child, or as an African citizen. There is also an opportunity for organizations to help close the skills gap that we found. And then for the nation, I think nations also have the agenda to transform and give opportunities for closing this gap. We need a political will to invest in a sustained and coherent manner that prioritizes skills academy, that solves Africa's society's problem. So we talk of Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. We need political will. We talk of India. They were very deliberate. The gains that we see India have today is as a result of many years of deliberate and intentional planning, and they are reaping the benefits today. If Africa wants to be at the forefront of becoming a very strong continent that is transforming the opportunities we have, then we need to sow the seed today, because we can only reap the investments that we make today into our young people. And I also believe that we should use data to inform the strategy on where to invest. There are gaps in many sectors in Africa, and there are hundreds and millions of young Africans that are pursuing higher education. Do they have information about those opportunities that would direct them on which disciplines to pursue? I think we need to use data to inform personal plans for career development, organizations similarly, and also for our country. I believe in Africa, and I am really excited to be given this opportunity to share some of the things that I personally am passionate about. I've been a very strong proponent of really challenging the dignity of labor in Africa. And many times when I go into places, I ask, so what role do you have in this organization? And I hear people say, I'm just a receptionist, or I'm just an accountant. So I just also want to leave you with a passing comment to say, let's drop the just and strive to close that skill gap by saying that there is dignity in every labor in Africa. What will make Africa stand out is excellence in our skills. And that's where I'd like to leave this presentation. Thank you, and I am open for questions. I would like us to have a conversation, and I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be very happy to take on some questions, and then we can use the rest of the time to have a meaningful conversation.
All right, thank you so much, Ivy. These are very good insights, especially when we are ending our evening. I like how you really elaborated on the fact that we are all special. We were all made uniquely, and we need to embrace those differences so that we can be able to apply our skills in the areas of our interest where God designed us. I'm taken to the thought of all Africans. Just imagine, everybody in the chat, imagine if each and every one of us just took off time, our areas of interest, and made the skill in that one area. Miss Ivy gave an example, is just a receptionist, whether you're a receptionist, a janitor, an accountant, a teacher. Imagine if you actually took off that time to get the best skill in that one area. What could Africa look like? We would be people that everyone looks for, because we are doing each and everything in the best way that we know how. And then another question I want to leave us with before we get into the Q&A is that this year, right now we're in August, today is August 10th, I believe. What skill have you been intentional about for the past 8 months this year, 2021? What skill have you put aside and said, okay, this year I really want to work on it, and how is that going? So this is a call to each and every one of us. If we are all designed to do something very uniquely, that means we have to invest, and nothing is for free. Everyone who is an expert has put in the time and practice and hours to actually be good at what they do. So this is a call to each and every one of us. We have some questions, some Q's and A's, and we have a question from Jane. Jane is asking, what can our national leaders do to protect local skilled labor, ensuring that when foreign partners implement projects in Africa, they must hire the local labor? What should national leaders do? And then I'm referring to an example of the 87 Chinese. Chinese are well known for bringing their own workers in the industries, even in hospitality. So what can our national leaders do to really support local skilled labor? Over to you, Miss Ivy.
Thank you so much, Subi. I think there are many things that we can do. One of the things is I think we need to have a vision for each country needs to have a vision. I know the African Union has envisioned this dream of growing Africa's youth and ensuring we have the employable skill. We need to have a vision today of what we want to become in 20 years, because that's the only way that we start to be very deliberate about. If the vision is to ensure that every African it has employable skills, that we drive this continent into prosperity, then we need to back it with actions. I wish I could influence the national agenda, but I hope that through advocacy, we can get government to put their monies where their heart is, because really we need to move away from talking about it to actually acting it. And I always say that if you look at India, what India is today is through the investments that were made many years ago. African can do that. And it's not actually to say that we have a blank slate. There are opportunities, there are hubs, innovation hubs that are emerging, but we need it in large quantities. More so, Africa lags behind science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Globally, we are behind. And if you look at, we entering into the fourth industrial revolution, those are the courses that we need to begin to dial up. We teach mathematics in school, not to apply at home to say, how do we apply maths at home? The homework we give to our kids has no relation to practically solving problems. Until we begin to transform our curriculum to make it practical, we will not be able to harness the vision that we have for Africa. There's a lot, it's almost like a myriad strategy from our educational reforms to being deliberate with investing into skills hub and academies and partnering with organizations and corporates to support government's vision. It starts with a clear vision. What is the vision for Africa? And what is the vision for the nation? Plant the seed for the vision today so that we can reap it in 20 years.
What is the vision for Africa? Which goal, even you as an individual, what is your life vision? Do you even know what you were designed? There's another question here by someone who wants to know, can you give us an example of how to move from volunteering to create a job? The people we volunteer for, question. You can volunteer for, do not hire you because you're just volunteering. It's free labor, they're saving money. So how do you move from volunteering to being hired?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Subi, for that. And I think volunteering should be seen as a means of growing your skill or developing your skill. So for example, take it that you are interested in cloud engineering and you've got no skill, but there's an organization that is willing to take you on to give you an opportunity to have practice experience. I think that you should grab it with both hands and go for it. Because in any case, when you are entering the job market, the first question we ask you is, can you do this job? Have you done it before? Have you got the experience? Volunteering gives you the experience that ordinarily you will not be able to get. And I think once you build a skill, you should proudly be able to articulate what you can do with that skill anytime an opportunity emerges. I have not seen anyone who is so skillful being denied a job unless they are not able to present well what they are able to do. I would say Africa, take opportunities for volunteering, take opportunities for internship, take opportunities to be very deliberate in investing into your skills. Don't think about the money, because once you acquire a certificate or a degree, you come into the workplace as entry level. Nobody would pay you good money as an entry level. They would pay you more if you have the mastery and the proficiency. Volunteering, internship, working on projects, putting up your hand to shadow someone would give you the experience that will count later for a job availability. So it's all part of the employable skills that one needs.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Abby. And just to add on, you know, you talked about, I think Professor talked about character, as well as you also talked about character. When we are acquiring all these skills, there's a place for character. So even when we are volunteering, it's our chance as African children to make sure that our light shines through, so that even as you are to the employer, people are part of you because of your character, your nature, your kindness, and your excellence. And so that's one thing. We shouldn't take volunteering just, you know, I'm here to learn a skill and lend a hand. No, you're there to lead, so that they can always remember you. And you'll be surprised, they might call you just back. And it's a good chance for you to network as well. We have so many questions coming in, and quite a number of people are saying, yes, indeed, volunteering is the way to go. And Asianat Isabella wants to know, apart from digital skills, I know you stressed a lot on digital skills, kindly at least highlight just 10 common skills that we might be overlooking, and they're necessarily digital skills.
Okay, I think I will quickly do that. Just to build on what you said. So usually when you look at the fact that we say technology is driving Africa's growth and development, we would find people who have the technological know-how, they would study, but it's not applied to a sector. And throughout all the 7 sectors that the Harvard Business Review talked about, I would say that is where the opportunities lie. If you take agriculture, there are huge opportunities to apply technology to transform Africa's agriculture. It's limitless. If you take banking, if you take construction or infrastructure. So I deliberately shied away from saying this is the 5 list, because technology is a means to transform activities and work. It's not the end. The sectors that technology needs to be applied is where we need to start off from. So all of us on this call may be very interested in different sectors. There are people who would say, no, banking is not for me. But I've always loved infrastructure. I've always loved agriculture. Seek the exposure of what are all the possibilities and what are the technological needs that will drive Africa's agriculture development. That's where digital skills is critical, because without it, we can't even compete globally. And so the recommendation for all of us is have at least some basic digital skills, basic foundational digital skills. But if you want to go further deeply, look at the sectors that interest you and seek to apply those digital skills into the sectors. That's where the opportunities lie. So have that as the end in mind. What problems will you solve with the knowledge that you have?
How relevant is it in the area of your interest? How relevant is it? So we need to also be intentional, not just to learn and pile up certificates, short courses, but to also apply to our everyday life. Now, like for me as a nutritionist, we have so many softwares that are coming up in programming for nutrition policies. And you need to
Sorry, Subi, whether it's from my side, but I'm struggling to hear you a little bit.
know, what is Ivy's take on the current trends in exporting? Yes.
Okay, so yes, I'm struggling a little bit to hear you. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm struggling a little bit to hear. What I'll do is I will try and go to the question and answer and try and pick out some of the questions and respond to them, if that's okay. So I think I heard you talking about the current trends in exporting labor from Africa to the Arab world and beyond. Any justification, any way to reverse this? I think I would side with Professor Anan, because we do have, when we lack the relevant skills, we import skill, and that's very okay because we've got great Africans who work globally. So that mobility of skill is also a strategy. We Africans can work anywhere. What we want to leverage on is that there are huge opportunities right home. And I, particularly from a pure Pan-African view, would say, let us try and immerse ourselves in the opportunities that Africa holds for us. Certainly when you have opportunities to grow your skill and you can work elsewhere for experience, certainly take the advantage. If Africa decides to have a vision of what we want to be known for, just like India has done, a lot of corporates are looking to India for partnership or even outsourcing some aspect of their business to India. So certainly we can also export the human capital when needed. When we've grown our skills, we can transfer. But I certainly believe that on this continent, there are huge opportunities for us to leverage the opportunities that this continent holds and to transform Africa into a prosperous continent. That is the vision for the Inspire Conference. And we're hoping that that inspires all of you to look at Africa differently and to apply ourselves on this continent. Certainly when you have the opportunity to work elsewhere, get all the skills, but remember home. We need to transform this continent to become a prosperous continent. All hands on deck.
All right, thank you. Apologies for the network. Can you hear me now clearly?
I can hear you clearly now. Thank you.
Thank you. Allow me, I'll not put on my video. But one of the last questions I'd like to ask is our work ethics as the youth is really lacking. So how can we encourage our Gen X, Y, and Z to strengthen their work ethics? What can we do to encourage better work ethic?
Subi, thank you so much for this question. And it was so striking when I looked at the demand for skills, for digital skills, that one of the skills that was included was character and behavior. And even there was a huge gap in terms of what is needed and what we supplied. And only yesterday, we played a video at home, and I'm just using this as an example. And this was a gentleman who was mourning that he had a very large corporation. He wanted good people. He said, I wanted people of character to employ. And Subi, it will surprise you to know that he had to import skill from India because he said they were hardworking, trustworthy, and he knew that his business was safe. I think it just underscores that having skill is not enough. We've looked at many skillful people who have disappointed us because of personal conduct. I think Africa, given our warmth and our exuberance, we can actually brand this continent that if you're looking for trustworthy people, hardworking people, don't look anywhere, look onto the continent of Africa. So character and behavior is actually key. You can actually train someone and give someone employable skills when they are more willing. It's hard to work with someone who is very skillful and has bad character. Character and behavior is number one in Africa. I think we should also take a look in this conference to really ask ourselves, what are some of the descriptions that people give about Africans? Do they use positive descriptors or is it negative? And we on this continent, on this conference, can change the narrative. For young people who have opportunities to intern or to volunteer or to work, I think our work ethics, we should strive towards excellence and strive towards knowing that whatever behavior or character we show up brands the continent as well. Character is first, because character and competence will give you consistent results. Competence alone will not give you the results. So skills, core skills alone will not transform Africa. Character and employable skills would lead to a consistent transformation of the continent. Character at all levels, personal character, organizational character, national character, envisioning that this continent will hold in its space the ability to stand out, to say, when you are looking for people, honest people, people of integrity, look at Africans. We want to rebrand Africa with that message. And so, Subi, that's what I would have to say, that if we can make a pledge on this platform, that we would strive to place character first, Africa will begin. And I always say, let's sow the seed today. Let's sow the seeds today so that we can reap it in 10 years, in 20 years' time. Plant a small seed in your home. Water that seed, it will start to sprout. It will become a tree. Then suddenly it becomes a big tree. And then there are fruits. But the tree that you see with lots of fruits only became possible because someone planted the seed, watered it, took care of it, and we enjoy the fruits. I believe what we need in closing the gap is not only technological digital skills, but a combination of that and character.
So as we continue this conversation, it's really inspiring. It's making me think, and I'm sure many people, many of us here are thinking about what can we do as individuals? You know, many times we look at Africa as Africa, like we are all Africa, but it actually starts with you and me. It starts with individuals. So like Miss Ivy said, let's pledge today to be people of character and integrity in everything we put our hands to, so that whatever people know about us, it will actually be real character and integrity. It will speak for itself. Somebody, no, but here said, let's brand Africa with ethics and integrity. And character and competence, like you said, will give you consistent results. So character, I mean, digital technology alone is not enough. Character, competence is what we need. So let's pledge today. In the chat, I know we have quite a number of people. We have over 240 people. Let's pledge. Type in the chat, I pledge to be a person of character and integrity. Just type it in the chat if you can. I know there are many words, but for sure it starts with me and you today. Not just here at the Inspire conference, but even after the conference. Let's not just be excited. Let us come back next year with a different narrative, so that we can know that indeed we went out and were different individuals. We have only 5 minutes left in our conversation. If there are any other questions, we can take maybe 1 or 2 more, but there's a question here. Is it possible to have your notes and slide presentation? Yes, it is. If you registered for the event, you will definitely have a copy of those. And those who are following us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, thank you so much. You are all very welcome. So let us have one more question. Anyone having a burning question, we can definitely take one more to wrap up this session. And in the chat, we can see so many people are pledging to be people of character and integrity. It starts with me and you. Let us not see Africa like that one, dark continent. No, you are there. So be the light. Start with your family, start with your neighbor next door, start at your workplace. And I've seen this even in the healthcare system, we have quite a number of nurses and midwives. If you're a nurse, if you're a midwife, start with your patient. As a doctor, start with your patient. As a teacher, start with your student. So let us not just, see Africa as a big picture, It starts with me and you. We are Africa. So I pledge to be a person of integrity and of character as well.
Allow me to stop here. Our time is fast spent. Thank you so much, Miss Ivy. So many people are pledging. We have over 80 pledges of integrity and character. And my prayer is for each of us is that when we come back next year, I hope that people will actually have testimonies of what you have shared, testimonies of the skills they've acquired and how they've actually applied them to the areas of their interest, and even testimonies of people who have discovered who God has created them to be. Because without knowing who you are, you won't know where to go or how to even do it. So thank you so much, Miss Ivy, once again. There are few people still pledging. We thank God for you all. And I'll hand over to Mr. Emmanuel Osanga to continue the virtual networking event. Thank you so much, Ms. Ivy.
Thank you so much, Subi, for the moderation, and thank you for having me. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be on the conference. Thank you all, and thank you very much again.